Well, hello, Uncivil Law fans. I'm here with my friend Nate Brody for what can only be described as well, I don't know if unexpected is the right word, but it is a momentous
Yes.
occasion here that Ruth Bader Ginsburg has died at the age of 87 as a complications of cancer. She is a multiple cancer survivor. And I'll just briefly read the press report from the United States Supreme Court that was posted on the U.S. Supreme Court homepage, as posted about 20 minutes ago, 30 minutes ago, something like that. Associate Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg has died this evening, surrounded by her family in Washington, D.C., due to complications of metastatic pancreas cancer. She was 87 years old. Justice Ginsburg was appointed to the Supreme Court by President Clinton in 1993. She's the second woman appointed to the court and served more than 27 years. She's survived by her children. Her husband, who was also a judge, died in 2010. Chief Justice Roberts says, our nation has lost a jurist of historic stature. That's true.
Yeah.
We at the Supreme Court have lost a cherished colleague. Today we mourn, but with confidence that future generations will remember Ruth Bader Ginsburg as we knew her, a tireless and resolute champion of justice. Born in Brooklyn in 1933, married Ginsburg in 1954, received BA from Cornell, attended Harvard Law School, got an LLB from Columbia, served as a law clerk, judicial court in the Southern District of New York. She is a research associate and then associate director of the Columbia Law School on International Procedure, professor of law at Rutgers, Columbia Law School, a fellow at the Center for Advanced Study at Behavioral Sciences at Stanford, instrumental in Women's Right Project at ACLU, where she probably got her biggest claim to fame with the stuff she was doing in the ACLU. It's probably her biggest claim to fame as the ACLU General Counsel. Probably her most, well, I don't know whether it's her most notable accomplishments, whether or not you think her judicial tenure or her advocacy was more important, but she definitely got some stuff done as an advocate. Was really important in gender-based discrimination cases.
Was she the one she argued VMI, right?
Yeah, she argued VMI too.
Yeah.
National Board of Directors of ACLU. She was appointed as judge of the Court of Appeals for District of Columbia, and then elevated to the Supreme Court. She has had 40 years as a judge and justice and served by 159 different law clerks. She authored a book, My Own Words, and a private service will be held in the near future at Arlington National Cemetery. So there's the press release from the Supreme Court of the United States. And wow, I don't even know to begin where to start on her legacy, her accomplishments, and what it means for the country in terms of the ongoing election and all that stuff. So, Nate, if you have anything intelligent to say, now would be fine.
I first, let me fix my hair because I'm flustered here. First, elections matter. So my first two concerns. Number one, we're going to have a more conservative court now, right? If Trump appoints this pick, you're going to have a more conservative court.
Yeah,
I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't think it's a great thing either. I did like a little balance on the court. I did like the 5-4 swing on the court. Now you got really a 6-3 swing. So you're going to have more conservative rulings. Second, I want to see what Mitch McConnell does.
Yeah, really.
He held the last seat, right? And Scalia died.
We can't have a president nominate and have an appointment in an election year. And Scalia died, was it February, I want to say?
Yeah, Scalia died February. They held that seat from February all the way through the next term.
And last time I checked, September was later in the year than February, is it not?
2 months before an election.
So presumably, if the logic holds,
no, the logic's not going to hold. They're going to fill that seat. I think if they were to fill that seat, it's going to be a wave election for the Democrats. And the only reason why I'm saying that is because RBG was such a liberal lion. She was a liberal lion like Scalia was.
I think that's very fair. It's very fair.
The Republicans came out to fill Scalia's seat, right? That was a wave of like, we got to get people out because we want Scalia's seat. If they lose RBG's seat, people are going to come out for RBG. You know what I mean? So
people are going to go absolutely insane. People are going to go insane on levels that I don't think we have not seen insanity up to this point. I think that all the marches and riots and all the unrest we've had is as to nothing compared to what we're likely to see, especially if they go forward on a nominee in DC. It's going to be incredible. I'm worried about a whole bunch of things. I'm worried about the tone it poses for the country. I'm worried about the politics of it. I'm worried about the hypocrisy of it. I'm worried if the Republicans actually succeed, what it means for the future of the court, because they were already looking at adding seats and trying to pack the court. So presumably that becomes even a stronger call because we cheated them out of a seat after our own hypocrisy, right? Because I think the Republicans played well within the bounds of the rules,
of course,
when they did it. But if they go now and they so much later in the year try to reverse themselves for convenience, it will show it to be a purely craven move if you weren't already there in the first place. And then there's nothing that sets the limit of how many seats there are on the Supreme Court. It's been nine since 1965 or something like that.
Even before that. Remember the 40s, the court packing plan from FDR?
Yeah.
It was 9 and they wanted to do like 11 because they wanted FDR because
it was 10 at one point before that. I think it's been 9 since like the 1860 or something. It's been 9.
And the court packing
it was 10 for a little bit there, but it was reduced to 9. And the idea that I think court packing is unbelievably dangerous. I think because there's no end in sight. Because once you start down that road, where's the logical stopping point there? What's to stop the Republicans from adding seats? And where does that all stop?
But you can only add seats through legislation, all right? You have to have both houses of Congress and the presidency.
Yeah.
That's the fear I think we have. I think the fear is we're just going to since you stole 2 seats from us, we're going to add 2 seats to this court. And you know what we got a different country. We've only had 9 seats for about 100 years. We need 2 extra good Democratic seats. I think it's going to be a problem. I don't know how you fill this seat. I don't. Even though if I was Mitch McConnell, I would be filling this seat. I would be filling this seat.
I know it's definitely going to come. $5 from Joseph Siegel. What's the chance Trump waits until after the election? And they ran through a nomination. Well, no, I don't see that particularly happening. $9.99 from McDermott and Emrys, RIP. That's much like with Scalia. Even if I disagreed, I appreciate the clarity. Yeah, she was also well known for being a very fast writer. She was one of the fastest writers on the court, in addition to being very smart and all the rest of it. And I respect him. Like my least favorite justice on the court is Breyer.
Yeah, me too.
I don't like the way he writes. I don't like the way he writes. I don't like the way he thinks. I find him very muddled, and he's my least favorite by far. So even though Ginsburg is farther to the left, I respect her much more.
You know, it's interesting. My most favorite opinion is the concurrence, Thomas's concurrence in Heller. Was it Heller or McDonald? His concurrence, where he was saying this stupid, the substantive due process is ridiculous. Why don't we just use, what's it called? Now in the 14th Amendment.
Oh yeah, privileges.
Privilege. Yeah, privilege. Is it privileges? No, it's privilege or immunity.
I always forget if it's and or. I can never remember.
And comes before or, the A before the O.
All right.
So the privilege or immunity is cool. I believe it's A before the O. Let me make sure though, because I remember that. That's.
I can never remember which is which. Yeah, I can never remember which is which.
But whatever it is, that was his decision. But one thing I do want to say though about Ruth Bader Ginsburg is that she was one of I think she was one of the best minds on the court, and her and Scalia disagreed totally.
And they were friends. They were good friends.
They were closest friends, and I think it's poetic that they both died in an election year like this. I think it is poetic. I think it is poetic. You don't think it's poetic?
No, I just hadn't thought about it before you mentioned it just now, but I agree with you that it is poetic. That they were the ideological ends of the court. I think that's fair to say. Well, Thomas might be more to the right than Thomas is more to the right than Scalia, but Scalia was more notable in his accomplishments than Thomas.
Of course. Scalia was a beautiful writer.
Scalia brought originalism out from the dead. I didn't have the pleasure of knowing it personally, but I've read enough articles to know that before Scalia came along, originalism was this backwater, rejected theory in law school. No one liked it. No one adopted it. And Scalia basically single-handedly
resurrected
made not only resurrected it, but arguably, and I would say, made it the dominant legal theory of interpretation.
Well, now it seems like textualism has reared its ugly head to overtake.
Well, Gorsuch is definitely bringing the new hotness. So Gorsuch might be changing it. But up until that point, I mean, he brought it out from the dead water. And textualism is definitely having its day thanks to Gorsuch in no small part.
And let's not. You were going from the Burger Court to who's the next Chief Justice? Rehnquist, right? You're going from Burger to Rehnquist. So Burger, that was an active court, a very active court. And Rehnquist was somebody who liked to constrain the court. And then when Scalia came on, the original list, that just made it even better because it was like, all right, we want to constrain the court even more. So I think it just kind of fell in line with the thinking of the Chief Justice anyway. And then you had all these Republican presidents who were putting more conservatives on the bench. Go ahead. I'm sorry. You have some super chat you want to get to.
Yeah. Breyer, least favorite. Kennedy, least favorite period. Kennedy had his weak points. I didn't really like his decision in Obergefell. I didn't think it was particularly well written. I didn't like the reasoning of it. I didn't like the way it was written personally.
Oh yeah,
you cannot find the point if his life dependent. Nothing but purple prose as far as I could see. Yeah, I thought Obergefell was written weak. I had some better ideas. I guess I have to at least somewhat mention who the most likely replacement is because we're all going to be going there. So here is your most likely nominee from Trump, Amy Coney Barrett, currently serving on the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals. I think she is by far and away the most likely nominee. She's originalist, textualist, and Scalia was her former boss.
Oh,
former
beautiful
professor. Yeah, she's Rhodes, University of Notre Dame Rhodes Scholar. Wasn't also Gorsuch also a Rhodes Scholar?
Yeah,
I think
but let's just be they all are super qualified.
They're all super qualified.
Yeah, so
she's 47. She's 47, 48.
Oh, that'd be amazing
so
because
she's young.
40 years on the court. Yeah.
Yeah, so she's young. So I think this is your odds-on favorite to be the nominee, and she's also a woman. So you got that as a plus to replace a woman with a woman. I think that she would have been the nominee rather than Gorsuch, but I think Trump was holding this back for exactly this occasion. So I think that Barrett is by far and away the odds-on favorite. She's very far right. She can probably put Thomas to shame. She has no respect for precedent at all, as far as I can find. Stare decisis is not a concept she believes in. So she's like,
that's dangerous for
she's like
court,
she's like, I'll overrule precedent. What do I care? If it's wrong, it's wrong. So she has zero respect for that. So she is probably. I mean, she's probably an actual reliable vote to overturn Roe versus Wade. There's really no doubt in my mind she'd do it.
But how do you because right now you need Susan Collins, who's in the fight of her life, right?
Yeah.
She's not voting for somebody who's overturning Roe versus. She's not voting for this woman because that's the conversation you have before you nominate. We need to talk to the people who are going to make these votes. You need a Susan Collins vote. She's in a hell of a fight for her life up in Maine. She's not voting. She's not going to vote. And then you have all these other non-moderate Republicans in the fight of their life. Because don't forget, this is not a great map for the Republicans when it comes to this election. Now, them voting this person on may help them, but they only have 2 months to get this thing done.
Yeah.
How do you do it? And let's not forget, aren't they going on recess for the election? I think they're on recess now. So after the election.
Well, the president does have the ability to call them back, so he's got that going for him. You can always call them into special session. The president can do that. So the president can call the Senate back into session. So I'm
looking at Congress's, the U.S. Senate's legislative schedule. They are on. No, they're working. They're going to be working. They're working September 29th. It's a work period. They work from the 12th. No, they're off. They should be off. Let me look.
They're going to be working tomorrow. I think there's a pretty decent chance that they're going to open the doors and there's going to be some floor speeches given in the House. I don't care what the calendar says. Someone's opening the door. They're going to janitor open the door or something and give them some floor speeches. I'm telling you, because I just think we're in that kind of situation. But yeah, this is your most likely nominee is Amy Coney Barrett, and the right wants her pretty bad, but she is as far right as Ginsburg is left. So you'd be let me see if I can find the actual scale of while I'm Googling. I'll wait till you're talking to look for it. But there's a scale which ranks various justices on like a scale, and we can see how that she would rank historically, or at least project. And she's probably as far right as Ginsburg is left. And so to replace a solid, predictable left-wing vote with a solid, predictable right-wing vote, I mean, who would be the new swing justice is the question. Well, who's the person in the middle? Is there one? It's like, yeah.
Let me give you. Let me give you. Hold on, but let me give you the thing. The Senate is only in session for 3 weeks before Election Day. So you have 1, 2, 3 weeks, and then they're off until Election Day.
Yeah, that was the plan.
So can you get this person? You can get them nominated.
No, that was the plan that was the plan as of about an hour ago, Nate. That is, I mean, they can change that, and as I pointed out, the president can recall them. So if he wants to recall them back into session, he can. So I mean, there's nothing stopping him.
Recall. Yeah, can he do an emergency session? Is there a rule about that? He can present.
Yeah, he can just do it. That's in the Constitution. It's one of his powers. He can call them back into session for urgent matters or something. There's language. Let me see if I can find the exact language in the Constitution. But yeah, it's one of his powers that he can just call them back into session if he wants. Let's see if I can find the language. Presumably, it's somewhere in Article 2.
Yeah, it would be in Article 2.
One would imagine, but sometimes they stuff things in weird places. Let's see.
The President has the power under Article 2, Section 3 of the Constitution to call a special session of Congress during the current adjournment, in which Congress now stands adjourned.
He may, on extraordinary occasions, convene both houses or either of them. Well, this probably qualifies as extraordinary. So
I don't know. That's going to be hard, because the first thing you do is fight it in court. You go to court, and then if you go to court, this is a time game. This is a time game. You call a special session. We ask for an injunction in court.
Now you'll never get the injunction. You shouldn't get the injunction. It's a political question.
But the fact that they have to hear to decide is a political question. That you're telling me you don't get 2 weeks just for filing the papers in court?
You'd have to get a stay, or I don't know that you get anything like that. No.
Well, you do get this. Well, I would assume you file the papers. You get this. You know it's going to be like, okay, I'm going to hear the case. I don't know. You're talking about 3 weeks. 3 weeks is a very short amount of time. And what about even the Senate rules? Do they even permit it?
I think. Well, I mean, the Senate rules can always be suspended, so you got that going for me. I mean, the rules are just there as a courtesy. So I mean, you can always vote to suspend the rules. And
but then look what you're talking about: suspending the rules, emergency session, just to get and let's not forget. You're talking about filling a seat 2 months before the election, in which you said the Republicans said we cannot fill it. We do not want to fill the seat. Last year.
I'm well aware, and I'm very, very nervous of it as a result of all that. Here's a chart that tries to rate the justices on an objective level. You know, the degree to which it's accurate or not. You know, one can always debate with the heuristics. So just to give you an idea of where this is. So this over here in 75 is when Rehnquist was an associate justice. Then he becomes chief justice here in 86, and you can see the various charts, and they're all kind of cramped out here in the middle. So you see, like here at the bottom, Sotomayor and Ginsburg. So at the moment, at least, they say Sotomayor is more left-leaning than Ginsburg, but Ginsburg is rated on the scale at about -2.5. Here you can see this orange line on the right-hand side is Ginsburg, and so you can see, according to them, she's become more and more liberal over time. So that's how they've been. This one from this Berkeley site has tried to rate them. Mm-hmm. And then you can see Kagan and Breyer. Kennedy was in the middle, you know, fairly flat. And then you can see up here, like Kavanaugh is at about 0.5, Gorsuch is at about 1, Alito at 2, and Thomas over here at like 3.5. And so if I had to rate Amy Coney Barrett off the top of my head, I'd be putting her north of Alito and competing with Thomas. So you're talking about replacing someone who on this scale is at -3, you know, down here at -3, and you're talking about replacing her with someone who's at +3. And so you're talking about a huge switch in sort of this trying to ensure the ideological, the split. Now, what's interesting about this is that you can kind of see how the balance of the court has, like, you can see there've been more left-leaning people, like Douglas over here, all the way to the bottom of the scale. We have to invent a new scale for him. Brandon Marshall and some stuff like that. So, over the history of the court, it's probably been a little bit more left-leaning. There's what's interesting about it is, I don't know the last time there's been a right-leaning court, at least according to this scale, it's all been a little bit murky. But if this works, it would be the first time probably in the last century that there's been a truly right-leaning court. I know people think that the court is right-leaning today, but at the moment, Justice Roberts, who's the man in the middle, and then by this scale, Kavanaugh would be the man in the middle, who was what I was kind of saying half jokingly, but yeah, he would be the most logical person to be a swing justice. So when Kavanaugh is the swing justice, yeah, things have gotten a lot more interesting, haven't they now?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the vitriol, the foaming at the mouth vitriol that will now be coming out is going to be on levels that are unbelievable. I mean, people have been protesting Black Lives Matter and protesting over what you and I have both largely concluded are a lot of questionable, if not illegitimate, causes, and this is a legitimate cause. And with the election now, when is the election? November the 3rd?
Yeah, the first, was it first or second Tuesday in November? Let me see election day. Let me Google election day.
I think it's the 3rd. So with the election now a month and basically 6 weeks away, with the election 6 weeks away, my God, how does this impact the polls? How does it impact everyone? How does it impact left-leaning people to get to the polls? How does it impact right-leaning people to get to the polls? How's it to do with voter turnout and all that crap?
There is no way. I don't think this galvanizes the left to not go to the polls. No. It did the same. This is what's happened with Scalia. When Scalia passed, this galvanized the right to turn out because you were voting for a seat. You were voting for a seat. Now the left is voting for a seat, and even if they screw us with the seat, right? If they screw the left with the seat, then you're voting for the screw up. I think this was almost the worst case scenario.
This is pretty bad.
This is almost worst case scenario.
I mean, we are only 12 days away from it being an October surprise.
Yeah,
so we'll just call it an October surprise. We'll round up because we're halfway there anyway. So we'll just call it an October surprise. We'll round up. So as far as October surprises goes, it's hard to imagine one that's more impactful.
Yes.
Again, she's, I think, other than Sotomayor, I don't know that I necessarily think of her as more left. I've probably agreed with Sotomayor more than I've agreed with Ginsburg, but that's just subjective. But anyway, she's one of the two most left, and to replace her, I mean, so now we have to figure out whether or not there's going to be a replacement, of course, regardless of it. I mean, well, we know what the news is going to be talking about for the next 2 weeks. So we got that down.
What's Mitch going to do? It's what is Mitch going to do?
Yeah, we know what every news report is going to be for the next 2 weeks. So that's great news.
And let's not forget too, Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell is not an easy fight in Kentucky, and neither is what's his name in North Carolina, Lindsey Graham. These, the map. I think the two things that are most concerning is the Senate Republican map is not a good map. You have too many seats up and too many swing places. And right now, if you screw the Democrats out of this whole we vote for the seat, I think you lose the Senate. I think you lose the Senate for a while, because losing a lot of those. Don't forget, losing the Senate now, I think you lose it because even next year's map is not good. Next in 2 years, the map is still not good for Republicans. It's better. It's better, but it's not that great.
I don't know that you can necessarily get the Republican senators to agree to this proposition. But if you ask the Republican Party at large, which they'd probably rather have the Supreme Court seat, because the Supreme Court seat lasts forever. So if it was simply a choice between we lose the Senate and we get the seat, I think the Republican Party as a whole would probably be like, well, at least let me speak for me. I'd rather lose the Senate and get the seat.
No, that's you. But the individual senators who are running, Mitch McConnell says, yes, I don't mind losing the Senate and getting the seat, but he doesn't want to lose his seat. That's the problem. Susan Collins, Republican who voted for Gorsuch, doesn't want to lose her seat. That's the problem.
Mitch McConnell's been in the game a long time. It sounds like a good time to retire. Maybe now's a good time to retire.
Why is he running again? Why is Susan Collins running again?
I don't know.
They're running again.
Throw yourself into the say. You know what? I changed my mind, and it's all good. I'm going down, and this is the vote I'm casting. So yeah.
Listen.
Susan Collins' office is going to be getting a couple calls. I think there's going to be a couple phone calls. Just get a little guess.
Let me see at-risk Republican senators. That's who you're looking for. Because I think like somebody was saying that what's his name? What's the guy from Utah? Mitt Romney. Some people were saying Mitt Romney may be someone who will hold it up, but I don't think Mitt, he's safe. And I don't think he has any political blowback from this, right? Hello?
Yeah, I'm hearing you. No, I don't know. Romney could do anything because Romney voted for impeachment in the Senate. So I mean, that's possible that he could do something unexpected here. Susan Collins, obviously, I mean, it's going to be a 50-50 vote. I can already see it happening.
So here we got Doug Jones, Democrat from Alabama. He's losing, right? That's an RC. He's gone. But now you got Cory Gardner in Colorado, right? Democrat. Yeah. He's voting to keep his seat. Martha McSally, Republican in Arizona. She's down to the astronaut. She's trying to keep her seat. Tom Tillis, North Carolina. He's in a toss-up match. Susan Collins, she's down by 3 points.
Well, I mean, there's nothing stopping the Senate from waiting until November 4th to start all this fun stuff. That's what I would do. You have the two in Georgia that are too close to call. I think. I don't know. I don't know what you do. I don't know that's particularly likely that Republicans would pick up seats in the Senate. But just to go into strange hypothetical lands, the Congress takes over on January 3rd.
Yeah,
the president takes over on January 20th. So in the event that Trump loses the election, but somehow the Republicans gain seats in the Senate. So assuming that hypothetical, President Trump could nominate a new one on January 4th, and let's see if we can shove through a Supreme Court nominee before the new president takes over and we lose our ticket. Can we cram through a Supreme Court nominee in 2 weeks? Good times. So there's all kinds of fun hypotheticals here. There's all kinds of fun hypotheticals. So so you presumably wait until after the election. Although it might be a good election bait. So, and Trump, of course, is in control of this, and him, and then you also have to factor in the degree to which it runs people to the polls one way or another for both parties. So, if Trump nominates someone, how does that impact Republicans running to the polls, and Democrats running to the polls? If Trump doesn't nominate somebody, how does that impact people running to the polls or not running to the polls because of that? So you have to factor that political calculus, and I'm already getting a headache.
But don't you? I would just suspect that if you just go back to last year, for instance, last election when this similarly happened, even though it was in February, you could see this mattered, right? This made sense. So I honestly just don't see. I would do it if I was Mitch, because I would do it as a rallying cry. Hey, we got the votes, we got the seats, let's do it, and hopefully, that keeps us going. But I just don't know. I don't know how you do it. I just don't know how you do it.
No.
And then let's not forget, you're going into after, because right after election day, you really got 2 to 3 weeks. And then what are you doing after that? You're going back on session for Christmas and the holidays, right? And then you're coming back for after New Year's, because really the month of December is done, right? You got Thanksgiving at the end of November. Then you really got 2 weeks until Christmas, the Christmas break, and then you come back and you're swearing people in.
Yeah, my biggest concern remains the structural elements here of the Constitution. My biggest concern remains this sanctity of the system that we have, because I kind of like it whenever changes need to be made. And my biggest concern is court packing. That by far is my biggest concern. I think it is a massive mistake, and it will lead to no end of problems, and it would just be a disaster. So as much as I want the seat, and as much as I want the more conservative jurisprudence that would come with it, I am I am so concerned about court packing. And what argument do I have, to stop it? Because the decision,
Nothing.
again, the decision to how many seats are is political. Congress can change the law. And I have no argument left, because I think the Republicans were legally correct when they said, well, we can withhold this nomination. But unfortunately, the rationale they used was, well, we're in the election year. So if they go directly against that, and how could you not? How do you square that circle by saying, well, although we said last time we don't want to nominate in the election year, this is different because of, and what do you say to that? I'm like, I'm struggling deep. So you get called out on hypocrisy. It becomes a huge element for change. And I'm really concerned about the sanctity of the Supreme Court. I'm concerned about the separation between legal and political. The process to get people appointed to the court is political, but the court itself is legal. And I feel like, to the extent that this hasn't already happened, I feel like court packing just turns it truly into a political instrument. And that's, a real problem.
Well, but don't forget, you need all three to pack the court. You need House, you need Senate, and you need the presidency.
Well, the Democrats will probably take over all three eventually.
And if they get all three, they will probably pack the court. I would pack the court.
It's a mistake, Nate, because if you do, there's nothing stopping the Republicans from packing the court. And then where does it end?
Exactly. But I think the game is going to be played, right? The game is going to be played that there's no gloves are off. You stole two seats. We're going to get them back. Supreme Court will go to 11. We got the votes.
I think it's an incredible mistake.
Yeah.
I think it does real institutional damage to separation of powers. I think it does damage to federalism. I think it does damage to all things. One of Scalia's lines that he gave one time at a conference, or testimony before the Senate after he was a justice. He gave testimony. He said, like, what the Constitution is the structure of it. Because I'm going to paraphrase Scalia. He said, when you talk about a person's constitution, you talk about their structure, their vitality.
Yeah.
And so when the actual Constitution is the structural aspect of the Constitution, the way it's structured, with separation of powers and federalism and all the rest. And so I am very concerned about doing violence to the Constitution by turning the judicial branch into a political arm. $20 from Jared, who says people will vote against Republican senators specifically to put in a liberal justice. If a seat is already filled, it becomes slightly more of a background issue. I don't know, man. This is so huge, because Ruth Bader Ginsburg is huge. She's huge as a pop culture figure.
Yeah.
She has a movie. She's more than any other justice. Scalia, I wouldn't say, is a pop culture figure.
Listen,
Ginsburg is.
Let's just call it what it is. Young people vote, Republicans lose. Old people vote, Republicans win. Right? That's generally the mantra in the voting dynamics. Right? Younger people vote left. Older people vote right. And that's even happens with me. I would say this: if Ruth Bader Ginsburg, like you were saying, was a pop culture figure, so RBG and all that stuff, right? If now that she's gone, I think the wave of cynicism right now with the young people out there saying, change. You take those people off the streets and now you send them to the ballot box. I think that is the problem for the Republican Party. You take those people off the streets and you send them to the ballot box. And now with COVID, those people will go vote. Older people may not go vote, right? Because of the fear of COVID. So I think you could be running into a disaster election cycle if things continue to play out as they are. This could be a disaster election cycle. I don't think those young people will go vote now, but I think RBG, this, yes, and COVID, I think you may get them to vote. This may be enough.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to impact the politics in ways I can't even begin to really understand or fully appreciate, because I'm still coming to terms with all this. And Ginsburg is a laudable figure. Agree with her or disagree with her, it's worthy of mourning her passing, because she was such a influential person, and her jurisprudence will continue to speak throughout the ages. I mean, she's got some morality that way. I just thought maybe I'd go through a couple tweets just to see what people are saying. Bernie Sanders, the passing of the RBG is tremendous loss, extraordinary champion of justice and equal rights, and remembered as one of the great justices. I think that's fair. Adam Schiff, Adam lost America Lost Giants, RBG, was shunned from courtrooms when she began her career because she's a woman, which was true for a lot of people of that era. Wasn't it like who was it? Was it O'Connor, who like graduated third in her class and like couldn't get a job as a lawyer, when she first started and stuff like that? Because different times. So she is a lioness. She is irreplaceable. That's probably true. Rand Paul, my thoughts are with the family. She leaves a legacy of thorough service and dedication to law. May she rest in peace. And that's about how I feel about it right now too.
I'm Barnes, Robert, our friend Robert Barnes. He puts Murkowski, Collins, Romney, etc. will be hard pressed to slow roll the well-regarded Latino, because he's talking about the same nominee you're talking about. That's just overwhelmingly approved to the 11th Circuit. Hence, I think Trump will go down that path. And I'm responding, hypocrisy. Remember, what's his name?
McConnell?
No, not McConnell. Who's Obama's nominee that they get? No, Obama's.
Wow, I just drew a blank.
He's still in the court too.
He's the chief judge. He was the chief judge of the DC Circuit.
DC Circuit.
I can see his face.
DC Circuit Court of Appeals. Now you're forcing me to look it up. All right, justices. Does anybody? It's somebody's got to be saying it inside the side.
Merrick Garland. That's right.
Merrick Garland. There it is.
We got there eventually. Thank you.
So that's what I'm writing to him, Judge Merrick Garland, because that's the problem. I think Garland is the problem. I think you have a Merrick Garland problem. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we got a Merrick Garland problem.
Yeah, hypocrisy. That's what I'm writing about. Hypocrisy. Remember Merrick B. Garland.
I think it was Ginsburg, and I could be mistaken, but I think it was Ginsburg who was the first nominee to the Supreme Court that started the modern trend of how Supreme Court nominees are dealt with, in terms of a lot of questioning and asking, like, what is going to be your vote in the future and trying to probe into their judicial philosophy. I think Ruth Bader Ginsburg was the first justice who did that. But so there she is back in the day giving her testimony in the Senate.
Yeah.
There she is younger when she was on the Court of Appeals, 1986, Ginsburg.
But I'm going to see something that some people may not agree with, but I'm going to say it anyway.
Yeah.
She waited too long before she retired.
Yeah.
She waited too long. She should have retired under Obama, but and again, I have no evidence of this. I unfortunately think she wanted to go out being replaced by a woman president, by a female president. And I think she thought Clinton was going to do it.
Yeah.
And I think she thought Clinton was going to do it. And it just didn't happen. And now, and I like what Scalia said. When they asked him, they said, well, when you eventually when you leave the court, who would you want to replace you? He said, I said, of course, I wouldn't want somebody to replace me who's going to, wipe away my the history of my service. I'm saying that's just ridiculous. I want somebody to come in who's going to understand my role and continue to forward. That's the possibility that now you have now with RBG. You have somebody who could come in and wipe away everything that she's done for the past 30 years with one vote. That's what's on the ballot now. Yeah, that's the ballot now.
180 Swedish krona. This is thanks for the review of Driver versus Turner. You're welcome. Did you see in the comments a few that thoughts? Oh, let me do this again. Did you see in the comments a few that thought you were wrong and said Glick versus Knuffy is governing law in regard to where you can film from? Take a look. Yeah, well, I was of course speaking a little bit more. I wasn't speaking to precise issues, so it's quite possible there's a more precise issue on that. But fair enough. Maybe I'll take a look at it. But thank you very much for the super chat. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I would do it. I'm saying I personally would do it. But I don't think
you would do it even you would okay, so put yourself in the Republican mindset. You would do it even though is it because what you really want is the court to be packed? Is that the reason why you would do it? Because what you're really looking for is the court to be packed? Is that your motivation?
No, I'm talking about if I was a Republican, if I was Mitch McConnell, I would do it. I would do it and hope it would spur enough Republican support at the grassroots level to keep us in. But see, I don't think everybody's playing the long game. And the long game is you have to start looking at the country as a whole and seeing where the party's going, right? The party is contracting. I know a lot of people don't want to kind of admit to that or kind of see that, but the party is contracting based on just the dynamics. Now, in the United States, the good thing is it's not how many votes you get, but where your votes are coming from, right? What states it's happening, and so forth. Flyover country, as some people call it. But if you think about the past, how many presidential elections since Bush won? I mean, Bush 43, Clinton, Obama, Bush 2. The Republicans have only won the popular vote one time since Clinton, right?
I think
that was Bush 2. That was Bush 2.
Yep, that might be right. I'd have to double check. That sounds plausible.
They've only won the popular vote, and every year it's been contracted. Even Trump lost 3 million to Clinton, and that margin is just growing. Now the weird part about it, it's growing too, because all these people who are fleeing New York, everybody's saying, "Oh, New York's losing all those people." They're losing all those Democrats, and you know where they're going? They're going to places like Texas. They're going to places like Florida. They're going to all these Republican states, right? Because New York is too high. So right now, I think the Republican Party has a vote problem, because eventually, it's just the numbers game is going to catch you. You have you have undocumented workers. They're going to vote Democrats, and you have the younger generation. I think the numbers game adjusting it, and I think I would put this person on the Supreme Court now, knowing that I don't believe we could win long term, right? I think in 3 or 4 cycles for presidential elections, Republican Party is going to be at a huge disadvantage, right? It's just the way the numbers are looking. Remember, what is it? Gore won by like 50,000 votes. Clinton won by 3 million votes, and that number has been growing every year. That divide. So that's just the numbers. That's just what they are.
I mean, I don't know the degree to which the Republican Party is in great trouble or not. But I think, because it's hard to tell, whatever is happening. We've been more or less 50-50.
I'm sorry. Yeah, no, somebody said undocumented. I'm not talking about undocumented workers. I'm talking about, it's just the Hispanic population and the Black population, because all of that, I'm saying, obviously undocumented workers can't vote, but you have a support system there. And you have people, their children who are American citizens. Those are the people who are voting. It's a huge minority population. But for the chat, the numbers for just Republican votes, the numbers are still on your side. That's what I'm saying, and that's just a fact. That's why the Republican Party has not won the popular vote in the presidential. Think about it. Since Clinton, since before Clinton, it's the last time I'm talking about. Well, Bush won, but before Clinton, that they've only won once, and that was Bush 2, and he barely won that one. Against John Kerry. That's what you're looking at.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm concerned with the long-term aspects. I'm concerned with the long-term. I don't want to appoint someone to a court and get decisions that will be just completely overturned because of court packing, which does institutional damage and all kinds of problems to the legitimacy of the Supreme Court. So I don't want to shove someone through the door only, to get however many years of, a conservative court, only to lose the court, because the Democrats will eventually take over all the houses. I mean, it's just
Virginia's gone, right? Virginia was strong Republican, gone.
Yeah.
Georgia's now a swing state virtually. Now you're talking about Texas being a swing state. The writing is on the wall. But again, I think people are looking at the now and not looking at the future. You're talking about 3 or 4 presidential cycles, and you're talking about being shut out, for generations. Just like, remember, the Democratic Party had generations of this stuff before.
One of the things that makes me conservative is I'm looking to conserve. Right? So I'm looking to conserve, and one of the things I'm interested in conserving is the institutional structure and the legitimacy of the court. I'm interested in conserving the legal branch as apart from the political branch, and vice versa. I'm interested in conserving, not making it even more of a political toy and just leading to these ridiculous escalation cycles where you change it to 11, and I change it to 13, you change it to 15, I change it to 17. It's like, oh my God. It's like, when does that end? And I try to think about the long term, to some degree, because there's some real long-term problems here about the I mean, what does it do for polarization? even more? What does it do for even fractionating people even more? What does it do for our ability to have discord over anything? What does it do for civil unrest? What does it do for long-term stability of the republic? You know, Tim Pool talks about the threat of a civil war, which I think he somewhat overestimates.
Yeah,
but you know, to the degree that there is a threat, one would presume that this would escalate the threat. It makes it more likely than not. One would assume. So I mean, there's a whole bunch of factors to be factored into this, and like, you know, I don't want the short term win at the expense of, you know, other things I believe. It's certainly at the expense of the Constitution. You know, I've taken an oath, and so have you for that matter as a lawyer. I've taken oaths to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States, and so my concern is very rooted in the legitimacy of that. $5 from Ken Davis. I don't think there's any way they can get nominated through the election. Yeah, well, they don't necessarily have to get it through before the election because you know, there's basically three options on the table. You can nominate somebody now, you can nominate somebody on November the 4th, or you can nominate someone on January the 4th because the new Senate takes over on January the 3rd. So those are your three options. So you don't necessarily have to get them through before the election. If Trump loses on, you know, he's out of office on January the 20th of 2021. So you just have to get the Senate, you just have to get it confirmed, and presumably you have to get the thing delivered because that was Marbury versus you have to actually have to get it delivered. Yeah. You actually have to get it delivered, not just signed, sealed, or we're back to Marbury versus Madison again. What is old is new again. So.
Well, you know what? Yeah. I'm going to say this. Trump is definitely going to nominate somebody. I think that's no doubt about it. If he doesn't nominate somebody, I'd be shocked. You don't think he's going to nominate?
I don't know, man.
He's going to nominate. Of course he's going to nominate. Why wouldn't he nominate somebody? He would be dereliction of his duties if he doesn't nominate. I would nominate somebody.
Well, that was the Democrats' argument when Obama nominated, that Obama had to nominate because it's part of his duties.
Yeah.
And so one of the duties, so presumably the Democrats think one of Trump's duties is to nominate somebody, even though it would be hypocrisy for Republicans. So this is what I say. We take the talking points and we switch. So I'll give you, we can't have someone before a election year, and you give me, it's one of his duties, and we'll just reverse our talking points and we're back where we started. That's great.
I don't know what does this do though. What does this do? Because I think if she died even after the election, you're still in the same place. Except I think after the election, it's an easier call to make because now nobody has to worry about reelect. People who lost are going to lose. People who won are going to win. You know, so you don't really have those talking points. But now, before the election, 2 months.
Yep.
Do
you think you could do me a favor and talk to camera by yourself for about 30 seconds? Because I'm seriously going to start chugging straight out of the liquor bottle at this point.
All right. Yeah, I'm fine.
All right, great. Thanks.
I'm monologue all the time.
Yourselves.
So let's talk to the chat. So I don't know. Do you guys think Trump is going to nominate someone? Let me hit a one in the chat. One for yes, two for no. So one, that means Trump is going to nominate someone. Two means he is not going to nominate someone. So that one, yeah, I'm with you. I think he's going to nominate someone. I don't see how he does not. Yeah, exactly. But now it's about confirming them. Will that person get confirmed? That's the question. Because I don't think the nomination is a question. I think it's the confirmation is the problem.
I see. Somehow I got a lot of ones in the chat for no particular reason. What did I miss?
No, because I asked a poll question.
Okay.
One was Trump is going to nominate someone. Two was he was not. So everyone believes Trump is going to nominate. That's so we have all these people saying Trump is going to nominate. So let's go with that premise. Trump is going to nominate somebody.
Yeah.
Do you think he's going to confirm?
Oh man, it depends who he nominates, obviously, but you know, the right wants Amy Coney Barrett, but whether or not they can get her in this season, no. I don't know. Someone said, "What about Judge Judy?" Well, I'd remind you that Judge Judith Steinland, which is her name, was a family court judge for 20 years before she ever became Judge Judy. So you could do worse than Judge Judy. She is actually qualified. She was a 20-year family court judge before she ever went on TV.
She makes too much money, though. She's not going to.
Yes, this stream is now being brought to you by Wild Turkey 101.
That's your thing. You love Wild Turkey.
When nothing else will quite do To the Republic.
Balloon Knot says, how does it get confirmed? Well, what happens is the president nominates and then the Senate confirms. They usually hold a hearing. They usually question the nominee. Then they take a vote. And if the person gets over, majority of senators to agree, if it's tied, the vice president casts a tie-breaking vote, and that person's sitting on the Supreme Court.
What if he nominates a centrist? I don't know.
It's not going to work. Listen, that's what Obama did. Garland was quote unquote.
I suppose if Trump wants to be incredibly reconciliatory, he could nominate Garland. He can nominate Garland again. Maybe go for number 3.
It's not going to happen, but that's a masterstroke. That would be a masterstroke.
It would be a masterstroke. Garland is in the grand scheme pretty moderate, and if he nominated Garland, then the Democrats would lose their talking point about seat being stolen from them. And so, yeah, Trey Gowdy is an interesting guy. He has a lot of executive experience, and he thinks, so I don't know if he would be the best pick, but
But they would want to know how, because the one thing about these justices is that you have prior rulings that they can kind of sift through to see, like, where your political leanings are. Trey Gowdy, he was never a judge or anything like that, right? So it'd be hard for him to get on, I think.
Andre says Trey Gowdy isn't eligible. I'm like, yes, he is. At least as far as I'm aware, the Constitution sets no requirements.
Yeah, you don't even have to be a judge.
You don't even have to be a lawyer. Yeah, you don't even have to be a lawyer to be appointed to the Supreme Court. It says absolutely no. You don't even have to technically be a U.S. citizen. You can appoint anybody.
What? So, I didn't even know that. That's crazy.
Well, I mean, there's 0 requirements mentioned in the Constitution, so hey, whatever.
Wow. Well, that's advice and consent. Advice and consent.
Yeah, advice and consent. That's right.
But I don't know. I at the end of the day,
I'd also like to just throw my hat into the ring. I'm available. I'm 39 years old, and I'm obviously available, and I'm just down. So if Trump was looking for a nominee, uncivil law is available. I will relocate back to DC to be on the Supreme Court. I'm willing to accept that sacrifice for my country.
Yeah. Oh, so they could. Somebody said they could pick Cardi B. Yeah, they could pick Cardi B.
Yeah, Kagan was never a judge. That's right.
She's Solicitor General, though. She was Solicitor General.
She's Solicitor General, but yeah, she was never a judge before.
Usually, what do they call it? The I forget the name.
Yeah, the 10th Justice. The 10th Justice, they sometimes call it. Yeah, like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it is and actually, it's probably my dream job among any job, because I think that's just the best job, to be able to argue in front of the Supreme Court. I mean, that's really cool. If I were actually on the Supreme Court, I actually have to write decisions and stuff lame. I have to actually come up with like complex legal theories and actually explain it and have people hate me. But I've been a lawyer, for a little bit now, and so I'm well studied, and I'm available. So yeah.
I don't know. I'm trying to. I don't know. I'm thinking about whether, because there's a political consequence to this, but I would be shocked if the Republican Party just didn't go for it. It's too valuable to let up. This is manna from heaven, right? You get the pick. This is everything you want, and you get a one-term president, possibly a one-term president with 3 Supreme Court picks. Boom.
Yeah, no, that's consequential. I mean, that's hugely consequential. How many did Obama have in his term? 2?
2.
His 2 terms? Yeah.
And his last one, remember, he's going to get 3, but the last one was taken from him.
Well, they borrowed it.
Yeah.
What's the Supreme Court nomination between friends, right, Nate?
It all depends on if you got a D or an R in front of your name. I don't know. Do you think this is going to change the outcome of the election? Do you think now this hurts Trump?
I mean, it would be hard not to impact the election. I mean, this was always sort of a latent issue, and now it's big, and now they're going to be running campaigns, ads about it forever, and it's hard to imagine how it doesn't impact the election, and how it doesn't even cause more questions about the legitimacy of the election, because presumably, to the degree people were willing to cheat before, they're more willing to cheat, and the perception that people are willing to cheat has been enhanced even more. So this is really huge. I mean, I'm trying to do the political calculations in my head, and I'm having a really tough time, because I'm having a tough time seeing how it all ends, and trying to see what the total ramifications in the long term are, and trying to see what the short-term gain and long-term gain are, and what is the advantage. Let's say we can pull it off. Let's say the Republicans pull it off. Let's say we get Amy Coney Barrett in there by some miracle. Okay. So now we have someone who's willing to overturn precedent. Now, that being the case, I don't necessarily know that Roe versus Wade is in any jeopardy, because while Amy Coney Barrett would do it and Thomas would do it, I don't think Roberts would do it. And so I don't think you can get a fifth vote. So I don't see Roe versus Wade being in jeopardy, at least.
What do you mean? You don't need Roberts anymore. Even if Roberts goes with the liberals, that's just 4 votes. There's only 3 liberals now. Roberts and 3 liberals gives you only 4 votes.
Well, yeah, Roberts wouldn't do it, and I don't know that Kavanaugh would do it.
You need another.
I don't know that you can get to 5 votes. So at least for me, I don't count 5 obvious votes, especially on stare decisis grounds. But
why? Because all of them, that's what the big issue was with what was the previous ruling that Roberts just made based on stare decisis, where everybody was like, no. Shoot, it was a recent ruling.
The abortion case. There was one deal with it wasn't actually an abortion case where he upheld stare decisis. He was on the other side of that issue in dissent, and then he upheld stare decisis. So it was an abortion case, I think, out of Alabama, because it was mirroring a Texas law that was the previous one. Yeah. So I got it close enough to factually correct for the purposes of this exercise. But but even if we could get her on and we could get some conservative decisions, I mean, the most likely thing would be presumably we get some more Second Amendment cases, because we got a nice solid conservative vote there. So that'd be plus. We get more conservative decisions in general. But then, okay, so we have that going for us for the next couple of years. And then what's next? The Democrats presumably pack the court, and then
it's going to be hard to pack
everything goes to hell.
That's just not it's like you can't just, because the Republicans have the bird in hand. But to pack the court, that takes a lot. You got to win all 3. Then you got to kind of convince everybody on that side to do it. The Republicans, you're still going to have that Republican minority in the Senate that can still block stuff. So, with a filibuster, unless you kill the filibuster, then if you kill a filibuster, now
between you and me, and I felt this way, and this is not because the Republicans are in charge. I think the filibuster should die. I think it should die for all purposes. And just because the House doesn't have a filibuster, the Senate doesn't need a filibuster. As far as I'm concerned, if the Democrats have 51 votes, they should be allowed to vote for what they want, and the Republicans have 51 votes, they should be allowed to vote for what they want. I don't agree with the filibuster.
Shocker. You know the House used to have a filibuster?
Yes, I'm well aware of that. Yes.
It's crazy, right? It's crazy.
Yeah, it's been a very, very long time. It was 1830s or something they got rid of the filibuster, but yeah. It's not required by the Constitution. I mean, we already have bicameralism. We already have 2 different houses that you have to have control of at the same time. And they have different authority to do for different stuff. But and for that matter, the filibuster used to be 100. Used to be unanimous for the filibuster. Wow. Yeah, it used to be unanimous, and then I think it became 2/3, and then it was 60. But yeah, like in the Mr. Smith Goes to Washington days, it was like unanimous, so you needed everybody. And they got rid of that. But yeah, I don't see the point in it. I mean, if the issue is we need the minority to have debate and time to present their issues, I totally understand that. And the House does that to some degree, where, I think that both sides should be allowed to argue their issues and stuff like that. But for someone to be able to hold it up indefinitely, I don't believe in blue slipping. I don't believe in this anonymous hold crap. Let people stand or fall on the merits of their issue, and let that be the legacy of things. So if they got rid of the filibuster for all issues forever, that would be fine.
It's funny, because I think this filibuster, personally, I think the filibuster is a good thing. I think it's good because it does 2 things. Number one, it does give it gives the minority, especially in this particular climate, it gives the minority something, so they can have some voice, but not too much. Not too much. So I don't know. It's interesting, and to say the least. But
I just realized Legal is going to be making a video about this in the very near future, so I look forward to that.
Oh yeah, it's going to be good. It's going to be good. He's going to be tears, and how great she was. But it's probably going to be really good too. I don't know. I don't know what else to say about, this is. Have you ever met a Supreme Court justice?
Yeah, I somewhat ironically, it was Ginsburg when I was sworn into the Supreme Court bar, and afterwards they pick one justice. I don't know how they do it, presumably by lot or something. So I guess she drew the short straw. So after because I went in person to be sworn into the Supreme Court, and it was kind of cool experience. You don't have to; you can do it on paper, but obviously I wanted to do it in person. And so after I was sworn into the Supreme Court, I had an opportunity to meet and talk to Ginsburg for a couple minutes as we were wrapping things up, and it was a nice experience.
It's funny. I know. Well, not know. I met Sonia Sotomayor and what's his name? Stephen Breyer. Stephen Breyer came to the law school, and I met Sonia Sotomayor at the New York City Bar Association. So
That's cool.
Yeah,
Was this before she became a Supreme Court justice or after?
No, that's when she was Supreme Court justice.
I'm just amazed she's still going to Bar Association meetings. It's like I still have time for this.
No, it was she was giving a talk because at that time I was working at the law school. I was a lecturer, and we would go to so they gave us a whole bunch of tickets to. She was giving a talk. Really, she was pushing her book. It was when her book was being pushed out. So we went when she was doing the book tour. So.
Well, I suppose we can wrap it up for now, but I think in absolutely no sense whatsoever will this be our last stream on the issue, because this is all we're going to be talking about for the next, I don't even know how long, forever.
Next week probably. All right, my brother. Well, listen, thanks again, and thanks everybody for watching. This was great. How many people we got out there watching?
400 people watching this, man.
Wow, but this is breaking news, baby. Breaking news.
I'm sad. I'm sad for two reasons. I'm sad because, she's died, and that's worthy of sadness unto itself. And I'm sad because I'm concerned about the long-term implications and what that looks like. So I'm fervently concerned, and I think it's good to be fervently concerned at this point. Yeah. Well, listen, my brother, thank you again for having me, and hope all is well, and we will see you next time. Same bat time, same bat channel. All right, peace.